Hi everyone, so today I wanted to talk about CLG and reflect on the year that they've had. We've just concluded week 2 for Group A, and unfortunately CLG haven't made it out of groups. ANX from the CIS wildcard region managed to create this incredible upset, and Rocks, Tigers and ANX are the ones that managed to make it out. I think it was actually probably the most exciting group because no one expected the wildcard team, and CLG also performed so well where they beat Rocks Tigers in week 1 that there was this crazy possibility that maybe Rocks wouldn't make it out, or maybe ANX wouldn't make it out after they'd caused so many upsets. I think it was a great group, but unfortunately only 2 teams could make it out, and CLG wasn't one of them. But there was an interview afterwards with Zix, who is CLG's coach, and he was asked how he and the team were doing, given the results. And obviously they were disappointed. He said as much. But at the same time, he made a very valid point that made me kind of think about what CLG has achieved across the course of this year. And that was that he was really proud of the players. He was proud of the work they put in individually as a team and what they managed to accomplish. So that stuck with me, and I started to consider it, and I thought it'd be an interesting video, and it's one I wanted to make now, that despite CLG not making it through to quarterfinals, I think the players and the team and Hotshot should be really proud of themselves, especially given the history of the organization. And this is what I kind of want to briefly skim over. When we look back at CLG, it's one of the oldest orgs in League of Legends in North America. It's been a successful org, it's expanded to other teams, but in League of Legends it's always struggled. At times even dropping to relegations. Not actually being relegated, but getting quite close. They always had Doublelift, who in my view I associated with CLG. I always thought he would be with CLG. I thought from the start to the very end. It molded him, he grew up with it, and he became a leader in the org. And they finally won Summer Split last year in 2015. They beat TSM. They won the tournament with Doublelift. Doublelift finally won. It was crazy. They'd done it. And then they went to Worlds, and NA didn't perform very well. We had the famous 0-10 week. Off-season comes along, and CLG decides to make 2 changes. The big one being dropping Doublelift. Doublelift, who had always been with CLG, everyone associated him, was off the team, and arguably he was the one that carried the team the most. So many of their strategies were around giving him a hyper carry and just protecting him. Protect the Doublelift comp and he'll win and you'll get to a certain point, but that was also their limitations. But CLG made the very tough decision that Doublelift wasn't right or healthy for the team. And it was in the best interest to let him go and replace him with the rookie Stixxay. They also decided to let Pobelter go. Now, who he was part of the team, and apparently they had told him he was going to be the starting mid, but Pobelter ended up being it for the Summer Split, but they decided to go with who he regardless, despite the, regardless of the win for the new year of 2016. A lot of people were surprised by that and couldn't believe it. So despite CLG winning Summer Split in North America, somehow they started 2016 as still the underdogs. The big news was the formation of Immortals and TSM. TSM who created this super team. They got Hornser, someone who'd done extremely well in top lane and Gravity. They brought over Svenskeren, who's considered a great jungler. Bjergsen remained with the team. Doublelift, the best player from CLG who they dropped, was scooped up by TSM, and Yellow Star, who had just finished an incredible season in Europe and reached semi-finals at Worlds, joined the team. This was a super team if you ever could have one. Then you had Immortals, who picked up Pobelter, put Wild Turtle, Adrian together, and brought in the Rainova and Huni duo. Another great team. So CLG ended up as this underdog. There were other good teams as well, as Team Liquid. They had this really exciting group of rookies around Piglet and Phoenix, and people were really enthusiastic to see what they would achieve. And no one expected much from CLG, once again. But somehow, they did extremely well, with 2 rookies, Huhi and Stixxay. they managed to come second during the regular season and reach the finals ultimately by beating Team Liquid and reaching the finals of the playoffs of spring, where they faced a resurgent TSM. A TSM who everyone expected as a super team to dominate had struggled, but when it came to the playoffs, they managed to figure things out and they managed to make it to the finals, where they faced CLG. And CLG won. They won again. Despite what everyone was saying, despite all the flack they'd gotten, they managed to win a second split with 2 rookies after dropping their main star in Doublelift and Pobelter, who had seen such success with Immortals, for Huhi. And Huhi had been getting a lot of flack. But they still won 3-2 in the finals to get their second split victory. And that secured them the spot at MSI. And once again, they go to MSI. It's the same old story. They're going to MSI. There's SKT, you know, who just won World Championships and won the spring split in Korea. Such a dominant team. They were against RNG, the powerhouse, who on paper looks like the best team. Flash Wolves, who you can never dismiss and you shouldn't dismiss. And then you had G2, who had been so strong in Europe. But then we saw how it happened again. Somehow, CLG pulled it off and made it to finals, giving North America their best result at an international tournament ever. They're the ones, CLG is the one who got second place at MSI. No one else has gotten as close to that international result as CLG for North America. How can you doubt them anymore? But the meta changed and we came to Summer Split. Best of 3s came in. People were saying that yes, Immortals might have lost in the semi-finals of the Spring Split, but they were still the #1 team. Maybe CLG won, they were a good team, but they weren't the best. But people were still shocked and really starting to look at CLG and consider them as a top-tier team. And they worked hard to achieve that. But then the meta changed. And the change was much more mid-centric, rather than the top focus that it was in Spring Split. Darshan actually struggled a bit in Summer. The whole team struggled to adapt to this new meta. Suddenly Huhi, who wasn't really that great of a player and caught a lot of flack in the Spring Split, was expected to carry the team. And the whole team had to adapt. But slowly, they worked hard, and especially Huhi. Huhi worked so hard, and everyone will talk about this. Most recently, it was in, I think it was in Beyond the Rift with Cutie Pie and Skara. Skara talks about how he saw Huhi in the Spring Split and thought, not really that great. But he worked so hard. He worked harder than anyone else. And suddenly, he's carrying games. Suddenly, we have a Huhi who is doing really well, and we have a team that is working around him. So CLG, through hard work, diligence, great coaching from Zix, who was, honestly, I feel a little bit robbed of coach of the split in Spring Split, worked with the team to get them better. They had gone from relying on Doublelift to 2 rookies and succeeding. They relied on Darshan, who was having a slump, and yet they still managed to be consistent and succeed. And we only have to look at the other teams that hadn't managed to. Look at the year before. TSM hadn't had that consistent. They'd struggled. We look at Cloud9. Cloud9 was struggling. Team Liquid, who managed to reach 4th and, everyone thought was doing really well in Spring Split and expected to carry on, fell apart. CLG didn't. And CLG did well in summer of 2015, did well again in spring of 2016, did well again in MSI, and then they carried it on, slow, steady improvements, diligent, hard work. And they worked their way up the ladder again and ended up in 4th place for the Summer Split, behind a dominant TSM, a surging Cloud9, and another dominant Immortals. That is not bad company to keep. And there's no shame in losing to them. But they managed to beat them. The only team Immortals lost to in the Spring Split, CLG. And when Immortals and CLG faced each other for the 3rd and 4th place match in summer, it was not a 3-0 like many people would have expected. It was 3-2. CLG played incredibly well, even against Immortals, who was such a great team, who was such a dominant team, and an individually talented team. And CLG took them to Game 5. They could have very nearly won. Due to the points and the way that they won Spring Split, they qualified for Worlds, and they deserved it. They played well, they played smart. They might not be the most individually talented, but they are hardworking and a good team. And we saw this in the analysts, who were looking at them and praising constantly for their macro. They were praising for how hard they work and how they adapted and started to get better. And they took it to Worlds. And at Worlds, they stumbled. But at the same time, everyone expected the group to be Rocks first, G2 second, CLG third. Maybe CLG will win against G2, a lot of people are saying, but like, no, we really expect G2 to come out on top. But no, CLG came out on top and dominated G2. Not only that, but they beat Rocks Tigers, the #1 seed from Korea, the best team, the team that everyone considers the best at Worlds. 4 out of 5 players they have in the top 10, and CLG beat them. And they beat them well. It wasn't a cheese. It wasn't a trick. They just played well and they won. So when I reflect on this and I look back at the year that they've had, they brought in 2 rookies. They worked really hard. They were considered the underdogs no matter what they did. No matter the fact that they won Summer Split last year, still rookies for spring season. And all the focus and noise was about TSM and Immortals. But it was CLG that ended second and won that split again. And again, they were underestimated for MSI, but they got second there. And then they were dismissed. And who he dismissed and why, whatever for summer. But once again, they improved. Diligent, hard work. And I think that, more than anything, deserves our respect. And they should feel proud of the results that they have and what they've accomplished and where they've reached and who ultimately they have challenged. And I'm excited to see what this team does together in 2017. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoyed this and look forward to seeing your comments.